German-born author Martina Dahlmanns has penned down a deep personal memoir titled A Person My Color, Love, Adoption and Parenting While White. And in this debut book, Martina takes us on a journey and experiences of being a parent to her 3 adopted black children as a white mother. While she is in our Cape Town studio and she'll be helping us unpack this offering. Very good morning to you, Martina. Thank you so much for making the time to come on the show today. Very interesting title of a book, especially because you mentioned parenting while white. What is the significance behind the title?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. The significance of the title is, well, pretty much us as white parents adopting children who are black, and I think it's specifically significant in the context of this country. It's a task that we often walk into not knowing what we're doing and not knowing what this journey actually entails.
Now, why did you decide to bear it all out there? I mean, this has been your own personal journey, and often when we talk issues of adoption, it really can get educated, and I suppose it may be an opportunity for people to get educated about this process, especially considering the skin color differences. But why did you feel compelled to tell the story?
Well, I actually did not feel compelled to tell the story. To be honest, the story I'd tell was initially just meant for my children. So it started off as a project I did for my children in order to maybe get them a more deeper understanding of how we as a family came together, and maybe also of me as their mother, of who I was, how I came to be their mother, and also what I went through in my life and the mistakes I made that finally brought me to them as their mother. So the idea of publishing it only came at the very end when the book was finished and when the person who coached me through the process said, you need to publish it.
I mean, the process of adoption in this country is one that many people find frustrating. Tell us about the process that you had to undergo in order to successfully adopt all 3 of your children.
The process in itself was not frustrating in the slightest. I actually found it, in terms of how to become a parent, it was a surprisingly easy process. What I find frustrating is that the education around adoption gets very much neglected. By the agencies, I don't really know the process with social workers, but as far as my specific experience went, a lot of the stuff that became very important once I had my children was not even mentioned. So for instance, race wasn't mentioned, reactions from strangers, racism, all of that stuff was totally left out of the educational process, and it was more about focusing on the adoptive parents in the process, which I think is also what happens very much in the adoption narrative, that the children and the needs of the children get pretty much left out, and it ends up being about the parents and mainly about the adoptive parents.
I see. Martina, the book also questions the depths of what it means to be white in South Africa, in a country like ours. Bring us more into that and what you found.
Oh goodness. I think my most defining moment was when my child came home one day and had asked my husband, can a person my color ever drive a fancy car? And I think before that I was pretty much in denial, thinking like most people do, love is enough, good intentions are enough, and skin color doesn't really matter. And as she, maybe age 3 or 4, brought this into my life, I realized I actually carry a big responsibility, and that being white is not something that I can ignore as much as I can't ignore her being black. So for me, the most important learning was to connect with people across difference and across across the color divide that we still have here in this country, and to learn. And quite frankly, I had a lot to learn, because for me, being white was never an issue until I had my children.
Talk to us, Martina, also just about some misconceptions and challenges in general that you've had to face with having 3 black children and you being white-skinned.
Misconceptions in terms of?
Just in terms of, I mean, for example, people have said the likes of Angelina Jolie will come to Africa to sort of just get children as if they're items off the shelves. Or some people will say white people should not adopt black children because they're not understanding the culture, the cultural needs and heritage of what those children may need from that perspective. So what are some of the misconceptions or maybe challenges that you've had to face?
Yeah, I think it's more challenges. The misconceptions that I experience are mostly around white adoptive parents. And there is still the very widespread narrative of white saviorism and how lucky these children are to get into a white home. And also the ignorance often, and I don't exclude myself from it because I came from that ignorant point of view, that once those children arrive in our lives, we can just assimilate them into whiteness, which I realize which I realized hopefully soon enough is actually violating those children and their rights. So yeah, this is not a misconception. This is pretty much what's happening. And of course there is pushback from all sides, and there is a very valid perception often of people that we should not adopt black children. And then there is the other pushback of what else are you going to do with children? Are you going to leave them in a home? And quite honestly, I don't think anybody has the answers. And what I realized I need to do is I just need to push through it as good as I can, and with the help of a lot of people that I met on later in that journey, and to help me tremendously parenting my children. And I don't think any white parent can do that enormous task by themselves.
All right, Martina, thank you so much for sharing this book and for sharing your story, and really trying to get us closer to understanding just some of the ways in which we can make those adoptive relationships easier, especially when they cross those racial lines. All the best, and thank you so much for your time.